Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Panna Balázsy, and I will be talking to Mark GREENSIDE. Hi, Mark. Is your microphone working?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You have to be really close.
Okay.
So you're an American writer with Hungarian roots.
I am.
And you've spent much of your adult life in the United States and Brittany, France, which is why we're talking today. And you're best known for these really humorous and observant books about buying a house in France and navigating French culture and language and everyday life as an outsider. In your books, 3 so far on this subject, you turn everyday misunderstandings into reflections on identity, belonging, and what it really means to live in another country. Did I give you a good summary of what these 3 books are about?
Yeah.
It's good. And now the third and possibly final installment of this series is called I'm Finally French. And there are, of course, 2 others, and they are all available for purchase?
I don't know if they're available here today, but they are available for purchase, yes.
Okay, and you just came from the signing. How did it go?
Very well.
Very well.
It's a pleasure to see people. Thank you all for coming.
So you have had a fascinating life, and before we get to the books, I really want to ask you about that, because I've never met someone with such a diverse history. And by history, I mean you were at pivotal moments. You were present at pivotal moments of American history. Starting with your life includes the aftermath of the Holocaust. Of course, your parents were a part of the Holocaust. The Civil Rights Movement, the Vietnam era, labor activism. There's an FBI file on you.
There is.
And an impulsive house purchase in rural France. So if we look at it all, what has shaped you the most?
It's a good question. Wherever I am, people take me for what I'm not. When I'm in California, people think I'm a New Yorker. When I'm in New York, people think I'm a Californian. When I'm in Brittany, France, people think I'm English. And this happens a lot. So at one point in the book, the new book, I identify myself, let's see if I can get it right, as an American, Breton, Jewish, socialist, democratic person. So, yeah, New York, California, Jewish, socialist, Democrat. So that's what shaped me.
So you've given yourself a lot of labels, but you still call yourself an outsider as a consequence of you're never it while you're there.
Right. No, I always feel a little bit outside. Maybe it's because I feel all of these identities very strongly, and one of them doesn't really manifest itself. So that when I'm in one place, I do feel the others. And I'm always a little bit on the outside looking in. And that's also partially because I'm a writer. And as a writer, I want to be on the outside looking in. I want a little bit of distance so I can observe and experience.
A lot of people say is that you have to be a Democrat or a socialist when you're young, and the older you get, you should become a conservative or a Republican or whatever that means today in America. But it's not true in your case, is it?
A little bit. Well, not a Republican. We don't go there. But let me see if I can find you something to read. Can I do that?
Okay. So it's the PS, the very end of I'm Finally French. It's okay, we have time.
That's good. I wrote it. You think I know where it is? was younger, I thought I could transform the future, stop and speed up time, and change things that never seem to change, like human nature. I wanted to eliminate greed, selfishness, authoritarianism, class, abuse, racism, poverty, hunger, colonialism, imperialism, and oppression. I was all for the creation of the new man, which at the time included the new woman. I believed in Che and Mao and revolutionary change. But that was then, and this is now. Now I'm a preservationist and conservationist, not wanting to change the world, wanting instead to preserve and conserve what's good and right and beautiful. Now I know there's a time for everything, a time for revolution and for preservation, and that my time is speeding up as I'm slowing down.
Oh, that's beautiful. That is a perfect answer to my question.
Thank you.
Let me just get back to the past. You were present when Martin Luther King has delivered his I Have a Dream speech. How do you remember it? And I am interested in parts that were not in the history books.
I remember it as a great journey because at the time I was 18 years old. I was still in high school. I was the most political of all my friends, none of whom really were paying much attention. And I wound up taking a train from New York City to Washington, D.C. Very, very early in the morning. At that time, it was about a 4 or 5 hour ride, and you wanted to be there by noon. And it was daunting. It was scary. I was by myself taking this trip, 18, not meeting anybody, not knowing anybody, going to Washington, D.C. to support this march, this man, and the movement. And I was very full of myself because, again, I felt out of place and alone. So it's 250,000 people, but I didn't know anybody. So it was a strange experience, actually, because there are 250,000 people and everybody is there for the same thing. And I'm sort of in my shell, but I'm also part of this mass movement and this amazing speech and the politics of the time. And looking back was more extraordinary than actually being there. Being there was it was something to do, something I had to do. But looking back, it's more momentous than at the actual time.
Well, that's usually the case, right. No? You're not aware of what an important moment
right.
In history that it's shaped that to be. You spent your life moving back and forth between different worlds, working class, middle class America, black and white America, urban and rural America, now America and France. And what is the biggest thing that we misunderstand about each other, I mean Americans and Europeans?
Time.
Time?
Time. In
what
America,
time means for an American and for a European?
Oh yeah, I think so. I think time in America means yesterday. Time is measured in seconds. In America, everything happens quickly or should happen quickly. Today is the first day of the rest of your life. Any given moment is the beginning of a new life. Everything is very fast and very forward-looking, with the idea of actually breaking with the past, as opposed to some kind of continuity and building on the past. And for me, it manifests itself, and I can't wait. I can't wait in these European lines. Just very hard for me.
So did time have anything to do with the fact that you made an impulsive house purchase in France?
It was very impulsive. At the time I bought the house, I was 47. I had no money, barely had a job, drove an 18-year-old car. The only thing I owned were the clothes in my closet. And I don't like to fly. I don't speak French. And all of a sudden, I'm making an offer on a house 6,000 miles away in a place I've never been, where I hardly know anybody. And I'm relying upon the word of the owners that, yeah, the house is okay, don't worry about it, everything's good. Yeah. You know, my father was a lawyer. He would have rolled over the way this purchase happened. But it was one of the best things that's ever happened to me in my life.
How did you decide that you want to write about your experiences there?
So when I bought the house, I promised myself 3 things. First thing was I would pay all my bills on time, no questions asked, because I don't want bad money between friends and neighbors. Second thing was I wouldn't sleep with any of the women in the village. I was single at the time, and the only thing worse than bad money between friends and neighbors is good sex. And so I said I wasn't going to do that, but that didn't turn out to be an issue because none of the women seemed interested in sleeping with me. So that wasn't a problem. The third thing I promised myself was I would not write about the experience. At the time, I was working on a collection of short stories, which subsequently were published. So I was a writer, but I did not want this experience to be a project. I wanted to be immersive. I wanted to experience it fully. If this was a project, I would have separated myself. I would have kept notes. I never kept any notes. I would have been an observer, a conscious observer, as opposed to a living, how do I get out of this observer? So for 15 years, I didn't write anything, but I told a lot of stories about what was happening, and people liked the stories. French people liked the stories, Americans liked the stories. They all asked me to repeat the stories. I told the stories again and again, and that became my first book, I'll Never Be French. Those telling of those stories and writing of those stories became the story of going to France when I didn't want to go to France, buying a house when I probably didn't want to buy a house either, and then fixing it up, meeting people, learning some of the ropes of what you can do and can't do, and trying to fit in and find my place in a community.
What did you learn about aging from the French?
They do it better than Americans.
Does it have to do with time again?
It's that thing with time again. Yeah, it's much more acceptance of the patterns of life. I'll read you something else. You're asking all the questions. In the U.S., time is measured in minutes and seconds. In France, decades and centuries. In France, the past never goes away. Today is not the first day of the rest of your life. Yesterday is probably better than today, and definitely better than tomorrow. In the U.S., where new is better than old, and old is practically new, the goal is to disrupt and break with the past. In France, the old is always present and usually valued. The goal isn't to break with the past, but to continue it. Think of waves and particles. In the US, Every event is a point, a particle, a place of potential departure and takeoff. In France, events are part of a large human wave, the tsunami of history, which is probably why arriving at 8:44 and 8 o'clock dinner doesn't matter to anyone but an American host. It does come back to time, and it is more of an acceptance of time. Yeah, I mean, that's the answer, yeah.
There's one big difference, I think, with how older people are perceived in the US versus, say, here, and that's if you are, I don't know, a television personality, you can be that even when you're 60 or 70. What I'm trying to get to is that there is a strong youth culture going on, and you, by all accounts, are a late bloomer, having purchased your house at 47, and then pretty much having this new career, even though you were an author before, but with these 3 books. So the question is, what would you say to those who think it's late to reinvent themselves?
Again, that's a good issue to talk about. You know, in the U.S., people do think they can reinvent themselves all the time, and in fact, they do. The opportunities to change and to grow and to do something different is really quite spectacular in the U.S. You know, at 60, 65, 70, you can decide to go back to school and get a PhD. You decide you want to open up a restaurant, you open up a restaurant. You want to buy an old car and fix it up, you become a mechanic. You can do all these things, but in my experience, for instance, in France, you can't. Kids make their choice of careers early on. If it's academic, it's one route. If it's going to be technical or craft, it's another route. I've got friends who, at the age of 40, 45, tried to go back to school and switch careers and found it impossible to do in France. They weren't welcome in school, they weren't welcome in their groups of peers, student peers, not age peers. And it's very, very hard to start over or start anew. I think it's much harder in Europe. I think that's one of the big pluses about life in the States. You really do get multiple chances and choices to reinvent yourself.
I can't argue with that. So in the book, you're finally French. Becoming French is less about citizenship and much more about how you see the world.
No, I'll never be a French citizen. I'm not even a French resident, and now that they've raised the literacy requirements, I'm not even sure they'll let me in the country.
So your French is not that good, yes?
My French is horrible, you know, my French is awful.
But despite of this, what is the most French thing about you, and what is it that remains stubbornly American?
Stubbornly American is impatience.
Okay.
Back to time. It's impatience and a difficulty being dependent. You know, in America, you know, a type A male, which I certainly was when I was working, it's before I retired, it's very difficult to ask for help, very difficult to need help. And in France, of course, I can't do anything without help. So it's a completely different kind of personality for me. You know, in the States, for most of my life, I've been relatively successful. In France, I'm a relative failure. You know, I can't speak, really. I can't join a French conversation. It's way too fast for me. If somebody wants me to be part of a conversation, they either have to slow it down or talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, or send me over to the 5-year-olds to talk to them. That'll work also. So, I forgot the question.
So, in what way are you French, and in what way are you American?
So I'm French culturally. It actually comes. You know, my family is all European. My mother's side is Polish and Russian. My father's side is Hungarian and Polish. And I'm very comfortable with you know, I grew up, my grandparents, I spent a lot of time with them. They were all born in Europe. My father's parents were born in Hungary. Actually, I visited the house on Dolbuta that they lived in. I'm very comfortable with the culture, with the values, with the way of life. It doesn't seem to make any effort on my part at all to sort of fit into French life. I'm polite. I'm grateful. I'm thankful. I follow the rules, none of which I do in the States. Okay? But in France, I do. My wife likes to say I'm a much nicer person in France, and I know that's true. And part of it is because I don't have the language to not be nice, but it's also because I'm more generous in France. I'm more grateful in France. I'm more accepting in France. I'm more present in France. In the States, it's Jesus, what's going to happen next? You know, something's going to happen next. In France, I can't worry about next. I'm already failing in the present. So yeah, those are some of the differences.
Unfortunately, I am told that we have to wrap it up, so I have one final question.
Okay.
You've spent, like, since 2008 is when your first French book was published, if I'm not mistaken, so we're talking about 18 years, a good 18 years. You've been in all this time trying to be French, but what have the French learned from you?
The French have learned to be fools. So, you know, there's a very high bar in France for French people. They have a gazillion rules, and if you don't really follow them, you can be ostracized. They can be ostracized pretty quickly. The judgments on dress, judgments on language, judgments on speech, on writing, lots and lots of judgments, and knowing where you fit into places and how you fit in and what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. Very little of which I know or can do. So I can honestly say, because I've seen it in my French friends, that I have lowered the bar so low that they are willing to do things and say things with me and my wife, Donna, that they wouldn't with each other. Because it's like, Jesus, if he's willing to be that stupid or able to be that stupid, what could we possibly do that's worse? So for instance, at one point we were at a friend's house for dinner. And you know, it's one of these long 5-hour French meals, and everybody's talking, everybody's eating, everybody's drinking, and I understand maybe a third of what's going on. And all of a sudden, one of the people at the party stands up at the dinner table, right? Just like this, and starts jumping. Like that, out of nowhere. Nobody's ever seen him do this before. And it, you know, he's asked why, and he's, you know, if you can do what you can do, and you can be what you can be, I can do what I want to do. And so that's the impact on the French. The bar has been lowered so far that they are actually freed to do things that they ordinarily wouldn't do or say. That's my contribution to France.
Mark GREENSIDE, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.